The crisis in Myanmar has persisted for 3 years since the military staged a coup and seized control of the country. During this period, Myanmar has been engulfed in bloody civil wars between rebel forces and the military government, plunging the nation's economic, political, and social situation into deepening turmoil. How has this conflict unfolded? What are its consequences? And what does the future hold for Myanmar? The tense relationship between the civilian and military governments has been a long-standing issue throughout various phases of Myanmar's political history. The stark differences in character between the leaders representing these two entities have been evident, and this contrast became even more pronounced when the National League for Democracy, NLD, took power in 2016. The conflict escalated when the NLD proposed a series of constitutional changes aimed at reducing the military's power in parliament by cutting the number of seats held by the military. However, these proposals were blocked due to strong opposition from military members and those closely affiliated with the military government. Immediately after the military seized power, a wave of protests erupted across the country, with strong participation from various social groups, especially the youth. Initially, the protests were vibrant, fueled by the hope of forcing the military to retreat to their barracks. However, faced with the military government's brutal crackdown, including the use of live ammunition and water cannons, the protests were gradually suppressed and eventually subsided. On April 16, 2021, the National Unity Government, NUG, was formed, bringing together members of the NLD, representatives of various ethnic groups, and supporters from abroad to challenge the military government. The NUG launched a campaign targeting military forces and government assets, while also declaring a defensive war, essentially an uprising against the regime that had been simmering for decades. This escalation plunged Myanmar into a full-scale war. Although ceasefire agreements were signed and extended between Myanmar's military government and rebel forces, the country's political, economic, and social situation remained in a deadlock throughout 2021. While the military government managed to temporarily suppress anti-government movements, it lacked the capacity to effectively govern the nation. Meanwhile, the rebel forces experienced internal shifts. Had they secured greater international support and shown more unity in their struggle, or had the military government been strong enough to fully control the territory, the course of the conflict might have taken a different direction, potentially more beneficial for the people. In 2022, the opposition forces' anti-government activities pushed Myanmar's political and social landscape into a new phase. No longer limited to protest movements, these forces escalated to armed uprisings, intensifying regional tensions and severely impacting the country's economic and social life. Neither the rebel forces nor the government have been able to establish complete control over the territory and its people. As a result, the population is forced to live under the overlapping and complex governance of both the military and the rebel forces, making their lives increasingly unstable and difficult. The State Administration Council, SAC, along with its close allies, including hardline Buddhist nationalist parties, organizations, and the border guard forces, has provided weapons to civilians. However, this distribution has primarily occurred in areas under military control, mainly in commercial and administrative centers, where conflicts are less frequent. The anti-SAC forces are an opposition group primarily operating in areas inhabited by the Bamar people, with varying levels of cooperation depending on the locality. Additionally, ethnic armed organizations, EOs, representing ethnic groups in border regions, play a significant role in the conflict. Although these EOs have existed for decades, their responses to the military government differ. Some EOs strongly oppose the regime and engage in fierce conflicts, while others adopt a more conciliatory approach. The civil war in Myanmar is not merely a confrontation between two factions representing different wills. It is, in fact, a complex conflict involving multiple parties, each with distinct goals and motivation. To suppress the uprisings, the Myanmar military has not hesitated to launch direct attacks on civilian facilities. Notably, an airstrike on a Kachin Independence Organization anniversary event resulted in at least 80 deaths and 100 injuries. Following the attack, the junta forces blocked medical access to the wounded, further exacerbating the situation. Following this, the Myanmar military intensified its repression of the Rohingya by restricting their freedom of movement and cutting off aid from non-governmental organizations, leading to severe shortages of water and food. In an effort to exert control through digital policies, the government also arrested Muslims who had lived in Myanmar for decades, accusing them of illegal immigration. Additionally, the authorities assigned ID codes to the Rohingya, labeling them as foreigners. Furthermore, to consolidate its power over national affairs, the military government ordered the closure of prison courts, severely limiting the legal rights of the accused. Local military courts were given special authority to handle cases, with the public barred from overseeing the proceedings, resulting in a judicial system that lacks transparency and fairness. Civil rights, as well as the rights of women and girls, have been severely undermined as the military government continues its armed crackdowns. On October 9, 2023, a village in Kachin was attacked, forcing hundreds of civilians to flee and resulting in the deaths of 11 children. The situation for women and girls has worsened significantly since the coup, with reports of sexual assaults by military personnel and non-state actors on the rise. This escalation not only contributes to the increasing unrest within the country, but also heightens the risk of trafficking and sexual exploitation of women in Myanmar.